Hello and welcome to Transformers Beast Wars. Given that we'll see Maximals and Rise of the Beast, I thought it would be appropriate to talk about where they came from. That and also want to talk about Beast Wars because it's awesome. I'll be reviewing every episode of Beast Wars, giving my own commentary and thoughts about the episode, pointing out references, nods to the rest of the show, Transformers in general, and I'll be trying my best not to reference the future too much. You'll also see my OC/Sona whenever I don't really have anything else to show. Sorry I don't have a Transformers OC. Beast Wars Transformers, or actually Transformers Beast Wars, is the second ever Western Transformers series, given that we never got the G1 sequel series in America, and G2 is basically just a clip show of G1. In its native Canada, it's known as Beasties, which sounds ridiculous. First episode, Beast Wars Part 1, was released all the way back in April 22nd, 1996. Two factions of robots on board spaceships travel through a portal to a mysterious planet. They crash land and have to deal with each other. Shenanigans ensue. The intro plays over different clips throughout the season. I really like the intro for Beast Wars. It has this really epic intro, and then it shouts, "Beast Wars!" It ends with a really cool 90s guitar solo. It's very 90s, and I really enjoy it. I hope you do too, because it's the same song they'll use throughout the series. The Maximals aboard the Axelon crash near a river, and the Predacons aboard the Dark Side crash on a lava field thing. They both realize the planet is rich in energon, so much so they'll get overcharged with it, so they scan for new alternate forms to protect them. It's a tiny bit weird that they already know the names of these animals, but it's more weird to decide to name themselves after them. But I guess it's not too weird because it's only G3 and we haven't really established that Transformers have other names. Dude, a tarantula and a wasp that big. Is this Australia? We don't get a good look at them before they get their new forms, except for Megatron, who is just a reuse of a robot from Reboot. Also, because it is the 90s, you just kind of have to live with the fact that the dinosaur formers don't look like how we now know they have feathers. This featherless Velociraptor is Dinobot, played by Scott McNeil. He gives us our first transformation of the series. In this series, people have to scream their name, and then maximize for Maximals and terrorize for Predacons.
Dinobot, terrorize!
Dinobot's upset that the Predacons stole the Golden Disc, which will probably not be more important later, and ended up not on Earth. Even though they kind of fly by what looks like the Bering Sea, and they crashed in what looks like sideways Africa, even more confirmed by the map earlier, so it really is probably...
It's known has two moons.
Loser.
The Golden Disc, which were only a map to energon sources and probably nothing else. Blink and you'll miss it, but it is the Voyager Disc. Golden records and carved with different messages and images shot into space in the 70s to be some kind of, hello to aliens. Back over at the Maximals, we're introduced to the crew. Optimus Primal, who turns into a silverback gorilla. He's the stoic team leader you expect from a Prime. And we learn that they weren't soldiers, they just happened to be closer to Megatron to follow him, and they're scientists. He's played by Gary Chalk, who will go on to play Optimus the second most next to Peter Cullen.
Optimus, maximize!
Rattrap, who turns into No Duh, he's played by Scott McNeil as well. He's the smartass of the team.
Rattrap, maximize!
Rhinox, a Warhammer reference. He's played by Richard Newman. He doesn't have a whole lot to say or do in this episode, but he's basically the smart, tough one.
Rhinox, maximize!
Cheetor is basically the Bumblebee of the series, because he's the young Kid Appeal character who's also yellow. He has the distinction of being the first character to say anything in Beast Wars. He's played by Ian James Corlett.
Unnatural life forms, then we gotta be talking about just one thing. Robots in disguise!
He said the thing.
Cheetor! Maximize!
An odd thing early on, his name is Cheetor, but sometimes they'll pronounce it as Cheetor. Cheeto also has the distinction of firing the first shots of the Beast Wars against this guy. Waspinator, played by Scott McNeil yet again, because Canada is a very underpopulated place and not many actors are there, so a lot of characters have to be played by the same couple people. I'm not really complaining, Scott McNeil's awesome.
Waspinator, terrorize!
Optimus references the Great War, which is the war of the Autobots and Decepticons. You know, to remember, so this team clearly has to be post the events of G1. We also get a very quick succession of catchphrases.
Well, that's just prime.
So, this is your first day on the job or what?
Shut up, Rattrap.
We're all gonna die.
We also meet the Predacons, but they don't really have a whole lot to say or do in this episode. Other than Megatron, I guess they couldn't think of a pun for his name. He turns into Barney the Dinosaur, and he's played by David Kay. He'll go on to be one of the best Megatrons, and even in this episode, we can see he's very sophisticated and cunning, very easily dealing with Dinobot who tries overthrowing him. David Kay will also go on to play Megatron a lot, but oddly enough, he'll also end up playing animated Optimus.
Megatron, terrorize!
The others who barely appear in the episode are Tarantulas, who turns into No Duh, played by Alec Willows, Scorponok, played by Don Brown, Pterosaur, who turns into a pterodactyl, played by Doug Parker. The first skirmish here shows perfectly how dysfunctional the Maximals are, with Rattrap refusing to go help Cheetor, and Primal having to go do it himself. And also Rhinox using Rattrap as basically a human shield. The episode ends on a cliffhanger with Dinobot switching sides and trying to overthrow Optimus. This is a very good start. We get a very good look at the Maximals. It's pretty funny, actually. The action's good. And we get a lot of good character moments with the Maximals. I love the music of the series. I can listen to the ambience all day. The only problems really is Waspinator seems a little competent for what he'll turn into by the end of the season. We don't get that much for the Predacons, then again it is the first episode. And yeah, the animation's definitely dated, with a little bit of wonk, a couple clipping, really awkward walk cycles, and these textures are terrible. Especially a lot of the floors, and Scorponok always looks kind of like he's wet. But you gotta remind yourself, it is the mid-90s. CGI was still brand new at the time. It's not like today where CGI looks comically realistic. They don't have all the budget in the world, and this is the second ever CGI animated show after Reboot, by the same people who did Reboot. But overall, I think a lot of the positives of the episode overshadow the negatives. And it's still a pretty good start for the series. 7 out of 10. As of now, you can actually watch it on Hasbro's official Transformers YouTube. Or you can be like me and just watch the upscales uploaded by fans.